Most Americans are now saying that they're worried about the shutdown's impact. A new CBS News poll says 6 in 10 Americans think the shutdown is causing serious problems for the country. 1 out of 5 people say that they have been personally affected by it. And I talked to CBS News Elections and Surveys Director Anthony Salvanto earlier about the new polling and what Americans want to see President Trump and Congress do next.
Inside that 60% that you quoted, where we see people saying that it's having serious problems, and inside of that, you've got 1 in 5 people who say they've been personally affected in some way. You know, even looking back at past shutdowns, when we've done that question, that number's a little bit higher, right, as you might expect, because this has gone on so long. Inside of that, though, are these partisan breaks that might shed a little light on the impasse here. You ask people, what should the president do? And they say, well, a majority says, well, he should agree to fund to a budget that doesn't fund the wall. But Republicans don't say that. Republicans say, well, he should stand firm. And then you ask the Democrats, what should the president do? They, of course, want him to agree to funding without the wall. But Democrats say the Democrats should stand firm. The majority of Democrats say they should make sure they don't fund the wall. And so that's where you see the impasse. It's on those partisan breaks, with each side knowing that the base is behind them, even though overall they don't necessarily think that the wall is worth all the shutdown.
Well, that's the question I was going to ask you about. You know, the president has said on occasion, you know, that the people are behind me, even the people who are out of work, they understand the importance of border security. How do they feel about the wall and this $5.7 billion being the sticking point?
Well, that's where you got to read the poll. You've got the abstract idea, is the issue of the wall worth a shutdown? And you see a majority of people saying, no, it's not, especially compared to the effects that they're seeing. But then you ask partisans what they should do. Now the context is, this is a battle. Now it's my side's going to win, or my side's going to lose. And that's where you see them start to dig in, and that's part of the impasse.
So speaking of my side winning or losing, we have seen a lot of sort of tit for tat between the president and in particular Nancy Pelosi. It really does seem childish, but I'm wondering how it's being observed. Who do they think is sort of handling this impasse better?
Right now, comparison head-to-head Pelosi versus Trump, besides the obvious partisan splits there, you've got an edge for Nancy Pelosi by double digits, actually, in handling the negotiations. Inside that is the break among independents. Predictably, Republicans think the president's doing better, Democrats think Pelosi's doing better, but it's the independents breaking towards Pelosi in that regard. And this, in some respects, echoes what you see in the president's approval ratings overall, right? You would expect Democrats don't have a high opinion. Republicans do have a high opinion, but it's those independents who tend to break against the president right now, and that's what you see echoed in those shutdown handling numbers too.
So that's really interesting. So I think, you know, a lot of people would have said when Nancy Pelosi suggested delaying the State of the Union, that was kind of like almost the first, like, oh, this is the first tat or whatever. I don't want to go back and forth that, right? I am wondering, though, because the president, as of now, they say it's on schedule, it will happen. How it's going to happen, we don't know. I'm wondering how that's being observed. But, you know, what are people thinking about whether or not he goes ahead with the State of the Union? Because I would think it would be awkward to say, here's the State of the Union, even though we're shut down.
So we asked that, and the people are split over whether or not there should be a State of the Union right now. You know, Republicans say that there should be, Democrats less inclined to say so, but some of that you might expect, because when we get to the State of the Union, we often find that it's the party of the president, it's his partisans that watch the speech in the first place. It's oftentimes, if there's a Democratic president, Democrats watch the speech. Republicans would be more likely to watch the speech this time. So naturally, you expect that they want it to go on. You know, and that's because it's another echo of how partisan all of this has become. But as of now, people split over whether or not it ought to happen.
The divisions continue to run deep, even though I think probably everyone can agree we don't want to see this government shutdown continue not 1 second longer. It's always fascinating talking to you, Anthony. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.